السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه من والاه. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وبعد. جزاكم الله خيرا for being here today. Alhamdulillah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that all of you are doing well, your families are doing well, that your fasts are going well. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our fasting, to accept our qiyam, to accept our dua. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let us benefit from this Ramadan and carry the lessons that we're learning even after the month of Ramadan, inshallah. So today, inshallah, the purpose and objective of this session is to answer some questions that you may be having. And inshallah, I'll do the best that I can. And if I can't answer them, which is very possible, then inshallah, I'll try to find out more information and give you the answers at a later time, inshallah. So we have a couple of questions from last session that were referred to me. One is about, pictures in the house and the hadith about angels not coming in, right? And that is the hadith the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time Aisha radiallahu anha, she had something like a picture on a curtain, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told her to take it off because angels don't enter a house. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood outside, and then he removed it, and then he came in sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So pictures shouldn't be displayed, right? In terms of photographs, in terms of even people, they shouldn't be displayed. But if someone has I think someone was asking about stuffed animals and books or in albums, these type of things, according to the majority of scholars, are allowed. The problem is when they display the pictures and photographs. So they shouldn't be displayed in that sense. But if a person has pictures, then it's okay. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. Pictures, I mean, like of life-like creatures. If they have some kind of scenery, things of that sort, like the waterfalls or trees and things of that is okay. But life-like creatures, like family portraits and these type of things, they shouldn't be displayed. According to the majority of scholars, they can be kept in albums or they can be kept digitally, but they shouldn't be displayed, because one of the reasons for this is because this very easily can lead to people exalting the status of their ancestors' relationships and elevating the status of people, which has happened in previous generations and among people of other faiths. So we tried to nip this in the bud, and the Prophet ﷺ discourages that from taking place. But as far as like cartoons and books and stuffed animals and these type of things, even Aisha radiallahu anha herself, she had dolls, right? So these are things that people have, and they're allowed to have. Allahu a'lam. Jazakumullah khairan. Another question that we have is that what about on the zakah calculator? There's something about expended a refund from taxes, right? So expected income tax return has been added as a line item, right? So my understanding is the zakah is only due upon money we own and control. At what point do we consider future income tax return as owner or controlled? So it's a very good question, right? It's similar to a loan. It's similar to a loan in the sense that if you expect to get the tax return, right, then you count it as part of your assets and your wealth. But if you don't expect to get it, or if you don't expect to get a loan, then you don't count that as part of your wealth, right? So again, remember, at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they didn't have tax returns and things of that sort. But what they did have is loans. So if you loan somebody money, right, and you anticipate that you're going to get that money back, you calculate that loaned amount as part of your wealth when you're giving zakah. But if you don't anticipate in getting that wealth back, then you don't count that as part of your assets and your wealth. So this is a similar analogy that we use when expecting the tax return to come in, because technically that is part of your wealth. And if you get it by the time that you are going to give your zakah, then you calculate it. But if it's like, okay, let's say today is the 17th of Ramadan. And remember, zakah should be given on basis of lunar calendar. So by the 17th of Ramadan, if I don't get that, and I don't anticipate I'm going to get that, then I don't calculate it. But if I don't get it, but I anticipate, yes, it's going to come next week, a week after, then inshallah I calculate as part of my zakah. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. I hope that clarifies that. A question here from Ali is, my 7-year-old is watching, wants to know why Allah is always referred to as a he and not a she. Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallahu fikum. Very good question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have a gender, right? These are the limitations of language, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't describe Allah necessarily as a female or a male, but in the Arabic language, there's no such thing as it, right? If I say kitab. If I refer to a kitab, in English we would say, or a mushaf, right? We would say this is it, right? It, bring it. But in Arabic, you'd say that his book, or bring him, right? And then in Arabic, for example, they would say that eyes, right? Any body part that has two parts, right? لهم قلوب, hearts. لا يفقهون بها. They would refer to hearts as her, not as it. So this is a limitation of language. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we as Muslims don't believe that he is male, nor do we believe he is female. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, beyond what we call, and we have human restrictions as male and female and genders. Right? I hope this makes sense. I know it's difficult for a 7-year-old to understand, but this is just the easy way to describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean that he's a male subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it doesn't mean that he's female subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hope this makes sense. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. If there are any other questions, you can type them in the chat box, or you can email social media at icnmasjid.org if you want to keep them anonymous. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All right, Jazakumullah khairan. Here's a question about tawbah and istighfar. Good, alhamdulillah. So they're very closely connected, right? Tawbah it comes from istighfar is to seek forgiveness, right? To say astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, I seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. Tawbah comes from taba yatubu. It means to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the act of seeking forgiveness from the tongue is saying istighfar. That's istighfar. But tawbah has certain conditions with it. Tawbah is to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and with that return, it means that you feel bad, remorse for the sins that you have previously committed. You try your best to stop committing the sins in the present, and you make a firm determination to avoid committing the sins in the future. So past, remorse. Present, right? Stop. Future, determination not to return, and also restoring the rights of the people if you've taken the rights from them in terms of wealth, in terms of talking about them, things of that sort. So tawbah is a little bit deeper than istighfar. It's actually coming back. Istighfar is when you seek forgiveness with the tongue and you ask Allah to forgive you. Tawbah is a deeper concept that it encompasses istighfar as well, but it also has those conditions that I talked about past, present, and future. Allah ta'ala alam. Hope that helps. Sister is asking, is any tips to keep khushu' in salah? Alhamdulillah, this is something we all struggle with, and I want you to understand that this is an ongoing process, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the khashi'in, those that have khushu' in our salah. So what we need to remember is that salah is not just something we just get up and say Allahu Akbar. There are ways that we prepare for it, right? So listening to the adhan, right? Adhan, responding to the adhan, getting in the mindset of the salah. When we make wudu, getting in the mindset, saying the adhkar, saying bismillah before we make wudu, saying the dua after we make wudu, the shahada after we make wudu, Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawwabin wa ja'alni min al-mutatahhirin. Try to avoid having distractions, right? And subhanAllah, I think that even though our minds are in salah, our bodies are in salah, sometimes our minds are wandering other places. Another thing is to even just read the translation of what you're saying in the salah. Right? Try to memorize more adhkar, more dua, so that can, when, subhanAllah, this is one of the blessings of Taraweeh and Salah, is that if you focus on anything else rather than the Quran when you're reciting Taraweeh, you're going to mess up. So sometimes I notice myself when I'm leading, sometimes I see my mind wandering, and then I'm like, hold on a second, bring it back. So similarly in Salah, when you're focusing on memorizing new surahs, new adhkar, new dhikr, right, and all from the Quran and Sunnah, then inshallah this will increase your concentration, your focus on salah, and it will become beloved to you, inshallah. Right? So these are things that we can do. Also, alhamdulillah, in the Friday email, we actually sent out something in regards to the phrase by phrase breakdown of the salah put together by our brother Faizan Mumtaz. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him and bless him. Very beneficial. So inshallah, these are things that you can do to help increase the khushu' in salah. Also, there's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that sometimes when whispering happens, right? Khinzab, who comes and whispers and tries to distract us and divert us from the salah, and it can happen. So what you do is you're praying, right? Hands are folded. Say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and flow to your left, right? I don't know if it's opposite here or not. To your left, 3 times to your left. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, 3 times, and inshallah that which you're feeling will go away and it'll give you the ability to focus and concentrate on your salah again. Inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all khushu' in our salah. Allahu a'lam. Yes, okay. Another question. Can we give a tip with a niyyah of sadaqah? Yes, alhamdulillah. Like if somebody does something, right? If somebody like does something for you, and let's say that it's customary to give them $1 or $2, but you want to increase that, give them $10, $15, and because you value the work that they do, this is good to help them out and appreciate the services that people are performing, even though customarily they wouldn't have gotten that much. If you want to try to help and ease or appreciate some of their efforts, this can be counted as sadaqah as well. There's a question up here from Sister Yasmin. After that, we'll do Sister Yasmin over here. While doing 2 rak'ah nafil salah on Eid day at home, should we do the extra takbiras? According to majority scholars, no. Eid salah is to be prayed similar to Jumu'ah in a congregation. So if you want to pray, out of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Eid, no problem. But as far as the Eid salah is to be done in a big congregation and in a collective atmosphere. Allahu ta'ala alam. All right, another question of Sister Fraheen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nowadays, everyone is saying to save money due to the situation we have. How do we think about this when giving zakah and donation? A very beautiful question. You give for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever is due on you in terms of zakah, in terms of investing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you give. And this is something, it's our iman. It's our iman. Yes, people may be saying that, and it's realistically, right? The financial situation is difficult. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that anyone that is going through financial hardship, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove that hardship and replaces it with ease. But remember all of the hadith that Prophet ﷺ talked about charity not decreasing wealth. That shaitan promises, Allah mentioned shaitan promises you poverty, but Allah promises you virtue and blessings from him and forgiveness. All of those apply to these type of situations. That when times are tough, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue to fulfill our religious obligations and put our trust and our iman and our tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or are we going to think that our wealth is our source of safety and security? So this is very important that these are the type of times where the sadaqah, right? Sadaqah, the term sadaqah, it comes from sidq. It means from honesty and truthfulness. Why the scholars say as-sadaqah tadullu ala sidq al-iman? Because sadaqah is an evidence, as Prophet said, some sadaqah burhan, that sadaqah is an evidence of the reality of a person's faith. So I would say that my encouragement to you and to others, that if we're going through financial struggles, right, and we want to remove and lessen those burdens, rather than holding, to give, because you're investing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and financial struggles are due to uncertainty, right? When is the economy going to open up? When is the stay-in-place order going to be removed? When are things going to get back to normal? And we don't know that. Honestly, we don't know. That's uncertain. But whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us is certain. And we trust and we put our faith in the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I encourage myself and all of you to give more, not less, during these times. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us, and we have satisfaction that we've invested with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah said, مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. Whatever you have will go away, but whatever you invest in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will always remain for you. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. If someone cries and tears go to the mouth and inside, is that going to break the fast? No, if it's unintentional, inshallah, this would not break the fast, but try to avoid swallowing the tears, inshallah, during the fast. So, inshallah, unintentionally, no, inshallah, would not break the fast. Sister Ghazala said, do we have to give our complete zakah all at one time during the year? No, zakah does not have to be given at one time. All right, let's say for somebody that they have to give $10,000 worth of zakah, for example, right? But it's difficult for them to make that bulk payment of $10,000 for zakah during, let's say, the 17th of Ramadan. So can they make $1,000 payments for 10 months and so that it is completed by the 17th of Ramadan when it's due, yes, they can do that. And a lot of people do that, right? When you make a monthly donation to an organization that is zakah eligible, you can count this part as part of your zakah. And inshallah, as long as the total amount that is usually due is given by the time the zakah is due, this is permissible. It does not have to be monthly payment. Allahu ta'ala alam. Sister Swaiba Said is asking, is it bid'ah to perform Salatul Tasbih? That's a very good question. There is a hadith about Salatul Tasbih, right? And some of the scholars, right, classical scholars, have deemed that as hasan or acceptable, and some of them have deemed that as weak or fabricated. So the people who have deemed it and classified it as hasan or an acceptable hadith, they would say no, it is not bid'ah to perform Salat al-Tasbih. But the others that deem it as a fabricated or a weak hadith, they would say that it is a bid'ah to perform Salat al-Tasbih. So what do we do in these type of situations where some scholars say that it is bid'ah, some scholars say that no, it's not bid'ah, it can be sunnah? In those type of matters, I would say that, as the Prophet ﷺ said, "Da' ma yaribuk ila ma la yaribuk," that leave that which makes you doubt for that doesn't make you doubt. So the same time that a person would use to make do salat al-tasbih, the same time use that to pray salah, but make dua. Right, and as we mentioned, I think Shaykh Umar also mentioned and emphasized last week that in the Nawafil prayer, most of the scholars say that you can make dua in your own language. So make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and inshallah this will be better for you than doing something which is questionable according to some scholars. Some scholars classify it bid'ah, some scholars say it's okay. So in that gray area, right, go to that which gives you certainty and assurance. Use that same time to plan and make your dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pour your heart out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Increase your ruku' in praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Increase your sujood in making dua and beseeching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah that will be more beneficial for all of us, inshallah ta'ala. Allahu ta'ala alam. Zakah eligibility question: are Muslim people have lost their jobs or greatly reduced incomes hourly and are trying to make ends meet eligible? Yes, if people don't have like the basic necessities, food, clothing, shelter, and or they've been significantly impacted, there are many people that do have jobs, right? That do have jobs and they do work, but they don't have enough to make ends meet for themselves and their family members. So let's say that a person does have a job and they do get paid on an hourly rate, which is low, but they have wife and 2 children, right? So they would be technically below the poverty line. So in that situation, they would be classified as masakin and those that are in need. So yes, zakah can be given to them, and it should be given to people like this. Can Sister Kishwa is asking? Can sadaqah be given to non-Muslims? Sadaqah can, yes. Sadaqah can be given to non-Muslims. Sadaqah can be given to charitable causes. If someone wants to help out drug awareness or hospitals and PPE, these type of things that are happening, or cancer research, yes, a person can give, and it will be counted as sadaqah because this is beneficial to people at large, and this is acceptable. And zakah has specific categories, but sadaqah, as long as you're spending your wealth, not only your wealth, subhanAllah, even your words or your influence in ways that are beneficial. The Prophet ﷺ even said, smiling in the face of your brother is a form of sadaqah. Right, helping someone with their goods and like helping someone get onto their mount and like camel or things of that sort. These are all forms of sadaqah. Saying a good word is a sadaqah, and good word, kindness, compassion, holding the door open for somebody. All of these are forms of sadaqah, which can be done for Muslims and should be done for Muslims and non-Muslims. Allahu ta'ala alam. Is there a cutoff date for zakah out of the door for a year? I'm not sure what this question is asking. Zakah is best time is when it's due, right? So you have once a person reaches nisab, which is a minimum threshold that a person needs to have in order to be zakah eligible, the clock starts ticking, right? The clock starts ticking, and then they have a year to give their zakah from the time that they reach nisab. People can give it early. So let's say a person gets a large amount of wealth or a large amount of money in Dhul Hijjah, right? They come back from Hajj and someone comes to them and they give them a large amount of money. Jazakumullah khairan, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. This is a gift from all of us. And they give them gold, silver, and cash. right? And that person, so if it's in Dhul Hijjah, the clock starts ticking. It reached nisab, so they have till the next year of Dhul Hijjah to give that zakah. But let's say that Dhul Hijjah is the 12th month of the Islamic year and Ramadan is the 9th month. And realistically, why do most people give in Ramadan? Because of the reward, yes, right? The reward and the generosity of the Prophet ﷺ increasing in the month of Ramadan. But also, most of us, and even for myself, honestly, if you ask me 2 months from today, what's the Islamic date, I wouldn't know. Right? But if you ask me today, what's the Islamic day? I'll tell you it's the 17th of Ramadan, which is called also the day of the Battle of Badr. The Battle of Badr took place on the 17th of Ramadan, just our information, inshallah. So you can give it early, even though you're technically, it's due by Dhul Hijjah, you can still give it in Ramadan, which is a couple months early. And then from next year, it would be due in Ramadan again. So I hope this makes sense. Let's see. Sister Lana, I think. One second. Sister Sabiha. Oh, no, sorry. Sister Ghazala, I see it here. Can zakah be given to non-Muslims? According to the majority of scholars, zakah cannot be given to non-Muslims. Right? Some of the scholars say there's one category called mu'allafati qulubuhum. Those are people have accepted Islam recently and have been cut off by their families and been abandoned. They can give zakah, can be given to them, but they're Muslims, right? Because they've accepted Islam. Another group says that if there's a group of people that are hostile towards the Muslims and their hostility can be reduced by giving some financial incentives for them to cooperate with the Muslims, zakah can be given to them. But just generally, like to our neighbors, our co-workers, our colleagues, can zakah be given? No. But should sadaqah be given? Yes. Okay, Sister Sabiha says, while fasting and breathing becomes difficult, are we allowed to take breathing treatment using nebulizer? Can we take inhaler to help breathe better? Yes, this is a point of khilaf between some of the ulama, but most of the contemporary ulama say that it is allowed to take nebulizer and to take inhaler while fasting, because the target and the objective are the lungs, and some minute traces may go to the stomach, but those aren't forms of nourishment for the individual. So I would say it's better for a person to fast, take the inhaler, than not to fast at all. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. Okay, salam. When praying Fajr Jama'ah at home outside Ramadan, if we wake up a little late and we see slight daylight outside, is it better to rush and pray alone or wait for each other to make wudu? Jazakumullah khairan, very good question. I would say in this type of situation, if you're sure that if you're going to wait for people to make wudu and that's potential for Fajr to be missed, then you pray individually. Right? But if you look at the timetable and you say that, okay, we have 5 minutes, it takes this person 30 seconds or 2 minutes to make wudu, then we're going to pray, then I'll wait for them and pray. Then you can wait for them and you can pray. The reason I say this is because this happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, where the Prophet ﷺ himself went to make wudu, and the companions waited for a long time, and then they thought that they were going to miss Fajr, and then they started praying. And Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu, he led the Muslims in prayer, and the Prophet ﷺ came, I think it was in the second rak'ah, and they saw the Prophet ﷺ was there, so he was ready to get back and let the Prophet ﷺ lead. So the Prophet ﷺ gave him assurance to continue leading the prayer, and the Prophet ﷺ prayed behind him, and he said that, ﷺ, that the Prophet will not leave this world until he prays from behind a righteous man from his ummah, showing the virtue of Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu, one of the companions that led the Prophet ﷺ in salah. Iqbal, I think, do we have to inform the person receiving money that it is zakah money? No, you do not. You do not have to inform the person that you're giving them zakah money. The intention of zakah is based on the intention of the donor or the giver, not necessarily the recipient. Allahu a'lam. What is the difference between inshallah and bi'idhnillah? They made the same thing. They're like synonymous. I think inshallah is better. Inni fa'ilun dhalika ghadan illa an yasha Allah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the term sha in the Quran. I think that idhnillah is a little bit more colloquial or added by the linguist after, but I think that the more appropriate would be inshallah, because this is better, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses it in the Quran. Allahu ta'ala alam. Brother Saad is asking, Assalamu alaikum, Saad, how are you? Alhamdulillah. Saad's one of our students, one of our hafadh from our community. Assalamu alaikum. Can a 12-year-old boy lead Taraweeh at home? Yes. 12-year-old boys can, even if they are not baligh from an Islamic perspective and maturity, they can still lead Salah. As long as a child has tamyiz. Tamyiz means that they can understand what the Salah is, know how to pray. Even some scholars say as long as even 7 years old, a child can distinguish between Salah and just playing around doing different motions. If they have the seriousness, they memorize Quran, they can lead Salah. It's not a requirement for them to be mature and an adult Islamically. And some of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were, they were led by younger Sahaba because the younger ones had memorized more Quran. Okay. Please clarify covering women's head when eating and generally covering women's head while at home, as the angels don't enter a home when women don't cover their hair. Look, covering the hair is for when people are non-mahram are around. Right? But as far as within the maharim, I don't know of this hadith that you're talking about that angels don't enter the house when women's hair is uncovered, right? This is very, I know sometimes I think this is more of a cultural issue, but this makes it very difficult for our sisters to be able to live and just live their normal lives in a casual manner without always having to cover. So I don't think that there's any historical religious basis to that. But I think that it's important in front of non-mahram. Yes, some of the hadith may say to cover when you're eating, but this is not religiously binding. It's not a requirement. So I don't know of where this comes from. I think this is more of a cultural practice rather than a religiously sound practice. As I mentioned in one of our khatiras before Ramadan, even sisters can recite the Quran. It's not a condition for sisters to cover their hair when reciting the Quran. Right? It's not a condition for sisters to be in full sleeves and full clothing when reciting the Quran at home. No, these are cultural things that we have, but in the Quran and Sunnah we don't find some of these. Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to read her wird and her set portion of the Quran while lying down in bed, right? So usually people, when they lie down in bed, they're not fully covered and fully things of that sort. So this is something that's very important for us to clarify and understand what is our cultural practices and what are some things people say from our culture and what does the Quran and Sunnah teach us and guide us. And if you look at a lot of the times, we make things more difficult on ourselves than they really are. And that's something we ask Allah to forgive us, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all hidayah and tawfiq and allow us to practice Islam in a way that is encouraging, inviting, not discouraging and not repelling. Jazakumullah khairan. When reading Qiyamul Layl, can I hold the Quran just without meaning to make long Qiyams, or can I just read Surah Ikhlas like 10 times in one rakah because I know the meaning is to make my Qiyam long? You can do both. You can do both. All right. I would say that and you have both options that are there. Some of the companions who didn't have, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, a lot of the companions, they didn't have the ability to read. I understand that a lot of them did not have the ability to read. So that's why the ones who didn't, they would read Surah Ikhlas over and over again, because that is great reward even in that. But others who could, some of them would, right? Aisha, the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, who she was led by a person named Dhakwan, and Dhakwan was, radiallahu anhu, was looking in a mushaf, and that made the qiyam longer. So it is permissible to look in the mushaf and make the qiyam long as well. So you can do both, whatever is easier for you. And that's what qiyam is. فَقَرَوْا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنْهُ. No matter what people tell you, do you have to do 8, 4, 20? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَقَرَوْا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنْهُ. Read whatever is easy for you. Jazakumullah khairan. Allahu a'lam. Madam's question: while praying, if by mistake we pass namaz, do we continue or break the namaz? Whether you break the namaz or not, then your namaz has been broken, right? So the hadith of Prophet is that you leave, and he said you grab your nose. You see a picture on Facebook on one of the videos, I'm actually grabbing my nose, showing people how to leave the salah. Then you leave the salah, you make wudu, and then you come back and you start your salah again. Okay? Jazakumullah khairan. Allahu a'lam. Is Salatul Ishraq and Salatul Duha same? What is the end time to pray Salatul Duha? Yeah, most of the scholars say, how we have Taraweeh, right? Taraweeh, Qiyam, Tahajjud. Technically, there are any prayers that happen after Salatul Isha. Some of the scholars will come and say, okay, Taraweeh is right after Isha, Qiyam and Tahajjud towards the later part of the night. Similar discussion and conversation we have from Ishraq and Duha. Right? Ishraq is technically, right, any prayer that's prayed after the sun rises, 15-20 minutes after the sun rises, until like 20 minutes. Zawal means until the sun reaches its highest point, and then Dhuhr starts after it starts to go to the west. So anytime between these, you can pray Ishraq, you can pray Duha. So this is a time frame, 15 to 20 minutes after Fajr ends, right? After the sun rises, till about 20 minutes before Dhuhr starts, you can pray these prayers. Some scholars, they prefer to pray it right after Fajr, right? The Ishraq right after, and that's a reward of Hajj and Umrah tamma. Some prefer to delay it, because sometimes the Prophet did delay it till the heat intensified a little bit. Some say around 9-10 o'clock. So whatever you find, if you find time easier for you right after Fajr to do it, do it. If you feel like, you know what, you find a little bit more time after later on in the day, right, then do that. Whatever's easy for you, but try to pray these prayers, and inshallah this will help you, with your salah, and inshallah with your khushu'. Next question: can we use humidifier while fasting? Humidifier in the room, if it's a humidifier going on, then this is okay. But one of the things that some people messaged me last week, I think it was, in terms of steam and inhaling steam, I would be careful in terms of steam, right? But as far as a humidifier in the room, like sucking out the moisture or pressure and things of that sort, the air, that's okay. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. Next, Muhammad Imad Quraishi says, charities like Smile Train focus on children. There are many non-Muslim children who benefit from this. Can zakah be given to Smile Train? As I mentioned, the categories of zakah are very specific. So zakah should not be given, but sadaqah, they should be supported through sadaqah. Allahu ta'ala alam. Okay, next question. Can I give some of my zakah amount after Ramadan if I couldn't reach the person I would like to give? Yes. This is fine, right? It's not a condition for the validity of zakah for it to be given in Ramadan. Make your intention now that, yes, I want to give to this person. If I can give it to them in Ramadan, inshallah, alhamdulillah, I'm going to give it to them in Ramadan. But if I can't, then inshallah, I'm going to give my intention, and I've allocated that, I've set that money aside. I'm going to give to person XYZ, people XYZ, and if I can give it to them during Ramadan, great. But if I can't, I'll give it to them after Ramadan. But your intention is what will get you the ajr and the reward, inshallah. All right, next. What is the ruling on building a grave site? People in some cultures tend to build a boundary wall around a grave. Right, cemeteries and graves need to be part of our community, right? But a couple of things that we have to be very careful about. Usually, if you look at like how Islamic countries and cities were set up, it was at the outside of the city, and this is something that try to keep it on the outside. And we have to be very careful of not to build mausoleums, tombs, because some people, they end up worshiping their relatives at their graves, and Islamically this is not allowed. So if somebody wants to isolate it from the rest of the city through a boundary or a wall, this is fine. But people just say, okay, we know that the cemetery is there, that's fine. If people, sometimes people going into the cemetery, we don't do that at times that we shouldn't. But as far as the houses around, inshallah, it won't have any impact on that. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. All right, next question. Do we have to call adhan at home before praying? It's better to. It's better to. Remember, one of the questions earlier was about khushu' and getting into the mode of salah. So one of the ways that we can and we should get into the mode of salah is by giving the adhan. Remember that when a person gives the adhan, whatever hears it, whether they're living or not living, they will testify on behalf of the person on the Day of Judgment. And what happens is that the shaitan runs away. Shaitan runs away so fast that the sound could be heard by those that can hear it for the shaitan running away. So one of the things that even sometimes a very important benefit of the adhan is that when we have waswasa, right? Sometimes we all go through it. We have evil thoughts, we have impure thoughts. One of the ways we say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, but the scholars have also said when a person said, say the adhan, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, then some of the waswasa and the evil thoughts that they have go away as well. So yes, the adhan should be given in the house, and the phone and other aspects, these are just reminders that the Maghrib time has come in, the Fajr time has come in. The act of ibadah is actually calling out the adhan and responding to the adhan. Another benefit of the adhan is that whoever listens to the adhan, and responds to it and makes a dua after it, then this will be the Prophet ﷺ will intercede on their behalf on the Day of Judgment, right? And we all want the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ. And the people who call the adhan, they will have the longest necks on the Day of Judgment, and they'll stand out because they put in that effort to call people to the masjid. Okay. Is it okay to pray before adhan call at home? The preferred thing to do is to call the adhan and then pray after that, right? And I would recommend all of you to have like a schedule at your house. What time are you going to pray each prayer? Like my dad, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and preserve him. He's always like 1:30 dhuhr, 6:30 asr, and this is when we're praying. And at like 6:15, it's like clockwork. I don't even have to, even if I don't have a watch around, 1:15 I'll hear the adhan, I'll call the adhan, 6:15 I'll hear the adhan for asr. And subhanAllah, so set this type of schedule and assign one of our children or the people to call the adhan on a set schedule so everyone can be ready and prepared to pray salah in jama'ah. Allahu ta'ala alam. Can you use inhaler while fasting? I think we answered this question, and there is a little bit of difference, but my personal opinion, apparently majority of scholars of contemporary times, that it is allowed. Some of the things might go, the target area is the lungs, some of it might go to the stomach, but the target area is the lungs in minute amounts, and it's not considered food or nourishment. And I would rather have a person fast, take the inhaler and continue fasting, rather than not fasting at all. Allahu ta'ala alam. Revert's mother's question: can she give her zakat to her son, who is also a Muslim, has all provisions, but needy due to unemployment? Yes, if the mother is Muslim, the son is Muslim, right? Muslim giving to a Muslim, and she is not required, after he turns mature and he has his own thing, she's not required to support him. But if he's going through hardship, that would like affect his lifestyle in the sense that it would possibly get in difficulty in food, shelter, clothing, necessities, then she can give him zakah. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. Okay, next question. Is it advised to do dhikr and make personal du'as or read Quran closer to iftar time? Please advise. It is better at iftar time specifically to make dua. Make dua, yes, because the dua of a fasting person at iftar time is more likely to be accepted. Quran you can read at other times, and this is myself as well. I do read Quran because sometimes that's the only time we find time to read Quran. But I think that making dua at this time should receive priority and take precedence and preference, because this is something that is at the time. You can read Quran before that, you can read Quran after that, but at that specific time, the dua has been more emphasized. Allahu ta'ala alam. All right, what is the ruling on reciting Quran from a cell phone for menstruating women? Again, this is an issue which there is a lot of khilaf and difference of opinion on. I take the opinion that it is okay and it is permissible for sisters to read during their menses from a tablet or a phone and not touching the actual mushaf. Allahu ta'ala alam. But again, I know there are scholars that will say no, she shouldn't read anything at all. But I take the opinion that it is permissible. Allahu alam. Mashallah, there are so many female hufaz in our community. Would you please, I don't see the rest of the question. There's so many female, would you please describe how they should lead Taraweeh prayers at home with their families? This is a very good question. And some of the scholars have allowed, right, for sisters, most of the scholars have allowed sisters among sisters to lead in salah, right? Sisters among sisters to lead salah. They don't pray the imam, right, or imamah. She doesn't pray in the front. They all pray in one row with the female imam in the middle, right? And this is something that across the board, most of the scholars say it's okay and it's permissible, and there's no confusion about it. There are some scholars, this is a very minority opinion, that some of our scholars, Shaykh Hatim al-Hajj and others, have talked about, that if there is a situation where the men don't know Quran and aren't able to lead Quran and lead Salah, and whereas the sister has knowledge and she's hafidha or things of that sort, and she wants to review her Quran, that she can lead, but she leads in the back, where she would usually stand. She's reciting, and when she says Allahu Akbar, the men in front of her, go down and follow the motions. So the sister would still be in the back, but she would lead the salah from the back. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. Again, this is something that is very rare, but you do find it in the books of fiqh. All right. Can we read Surah Mulk in Isha prayer, and will that count as reciting Surah Mulk for the night? Yes, inshallah it will. Right? Yes, inshallah ta'ala it will. It doesn't necessarily say in prayer or outside of prayer. So inshallah, this is something which would be a good thing to do, inshallah. Under current conditions, people want to refrain from shopping for new Eid clothes, rather making the best of their current clothes. Great idea, but wondering, is there a sunnah on Eid of wearing new Eid clothes? There is no sunnah necessarily of wearing new Eid clothes, just the best of the clothes that you have. So if you have something that is, slightly worn or rarely worn, right, then you can wear this, and this is something that you can do. It's not a requirement that a person needs to, go out and buy new Eid clothes. This is something that if normal times and financial things are allowed, yeah, alhamdulillah, go ahead and do it. But if it's something that it's, question of food or a question of, basic necessities, I would say that reuse Eid clothes and then, or nice clothes, and save the finances for other things, inshallah. Allahu alam. My 2-year-old wants to read Quran like his brothers. He wants to hold the juz, and sometimes he misbehaves or drops it. Is it okay for him to hold the Quran? Wouldn't want him to get negative feelings towards it. Okay, jazakumullah khairan. I think that, try to have something that is like a Quran with translation and words and stuff like that. The kids, it's 2 years old, I don't think he'd be able to tell what the Arabic is versus the English and things of that sort, right? But sometimes they don't want the exact same thing as their brothers would want. I know, like, you would go through this in my house as well. In this situation, it's okay. Just be careful. And look, when you talk about the Quran, right? I mentioned this in the etiquettes of the Quran thing on Facebook before Ramadan, is if somebody puts a Quran on the floor, right? If they're reading Quran on the floor in the masjid and they put it next to them and then they do sajda tilawa, is this something which is blasphemous or something which is disrespectful? No, they're not doing it out of intent of disrespect. So similar to the child, yes, they might drop it and stuff. We should try to avoid that happening, but the child is not going to be sinful if that is not intentional, and at that age it's not intentional, right? So try to monitor it, try to give them something else, try to give them a translation or something, some other book. But if you can't, then inshallah, it's okay. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. These online programs have been really beneficial. Could you please continue even after the lockdown is over? Inshallah ta'ala, alhamdulillah, the IT team, alhamdulillah, has been doing an excellent job. Inshallah, we'll try to do whatever we can to make sure that we will have programs online and on site for the betterment of our community, inshallah. And this is one of the, as I mentioned last night, this is one of the unanticipated benefits of this pandemic, right? And there are so many. One of them is that, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to improvise, to develop new strategies and ways of doing things that will, inshallah, be a source of benefit for us and others even after the pandemic is over, inshallah ta'ala. Can you please explain the concept of the barzakh? The barzakh, we taught a whole class on it. Basically, the barzakh is the life of the grave. What happens after this world, between the period where a person passes away and the time of the Day of Judgment. The reason we call it the barzakh is because it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this as a barzakh in the Quran. وَمِن وَرَائِهِمْ بَرْزَخٌ إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. When a person passes away, there is a barrier between them and this world and the hereafter until and the Day of Judgment, until the Day of Judgment. Usually people refer to life of the grave. But what happens is that there are certain people that don't pass away and don't get buried in graves. So what happens to them? So the life of the barzakh is what happens to a person after they pass away until the Day of Judgment. And as Muslims, we believe that the grave is a place. Yes, there will be questioning of the grave. There will be pleasures. There will be pain. There will be na'im. Na'im are delights, and there will be horrors and adab as well. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill all of our graves and the graves of the loved ones that we have lost with light and provide them comfort and support and shade and give them a peaceful state in their grave until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises them up on the Day of Judgment. Allah ta'ala alam. Can girls call adhan? Girls should call adhan. According to most scholars, no, girls should not call adhan. Even there are times when the Prophet ﷺ, there was, when sisters would have their own jama'ah, there was a mu'adhin that would be assigned to them to give adhan for them, for people to gather, and then they would have their own salah. So adhan should not be called by the sisters. But a very important point, all of our sisters in our community and just in the Muslim Ummah should know how to give the adhan, because realistically, and this is something that I'm talking even from my own experience, the people that usually teach the brothers how to make the adhan and the words of the adhan are our mothers. So it's very important for sisters to know this so that they can teach us and teach others. And alhamdulillah, all of our first teachers are our mothers. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward and bless and preserve all of our mothers. And any of our mothers are passed, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them Jannat al-Firdaus. So it's very important that you're not going to do it in a public setting, but to know the words and to be able to educate and teach is a very, very important responsibility of the sisters. If shayateen are chained, why do we still have waswasa? Is it our nafs ammara that is to blame? How can we overcome waswasa originating from nafs ammara? Yeah, so this is something, the shayateen are chained, not necessarily all of the shayateen are chained. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, shayateen al-insi wal-jinni yuhi ba'duhum ila ba'din zukhruf al-qawli ghurura. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said there are shayateen from the jinn, but there's also shayateen from humans that sometimes whisper to us bad things, right? And, oh, do this, don't worry, don't give, hold on to this, don't worry about it. Those type of things happen. Even from our own nafs, we have, issues, right? We have issues. We all have certain inclinations, certain desires, certain things that are conflicting with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And this is something which is a struggle. So I would say that ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha, وَزَكِّهَا أَنْتَ خَيْرُ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا أَنْتَ وَلِيُّهَا وَمَوْلَاهَا. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify our souls. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant it taqwa. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect it. And these are dua that we make. Oh Allah, mansurna ala anfusina. Oh Allah, give us victory over our own selves. Oh Allah, make our desires in accordance with what you want us to do, in accordance with the teachings from the Quran and Sunnah. So ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us overcome the evil inclinations of our own souls. And sometimes thoughts happen, ideas come, but the Prophet ﷺ said we're not responsible for that unless we speak about it or we act upon it, right? Because we don't know where these thoughts come from. But when they come, right, resist it, don't dwell on it, don't talk about it, and don't act upon it, and inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make them go away. But if we start dwelling on it, and then we start talking about it, and then we act upon it, then these are when it becomes problematic. Allah ta'ala alam. Next, when kids are young, can a mom lead salah? What I would say is that the mom can teach them. It depends how young they are, and I would say that how rather than the mom leading the salah, if they want to give them encouragement, fine. But rather than the mom leading salah, I would say to have them pray out loud to see how they're praying, and then inshallah this would be more beneficial for them and for you, and just away from any doubtful area. Allahu ta'ala alam. I correct my husband when he makes a mistake in Quran while leading salah. Should I still correct him when he makes small mistakes like in harakat, but which could change the meaning of the word? If it's al-Fatiha, then yes, and it's not a fard salah, then yes, you can correct him in al-Fatiha and things of that sort. But other than that, it depends. Honestly, it depends on the relationship as well. Honestly, this is something that, yes, technically you can correct, but sometimes, people can get frustrated, and it's not mandatory. As long as the Fatiha has been recited well, and the Fatiha is good, the salah will be good. Right, so that really depends on the relationship between the husband and wife, and I don't want the salah to be a source of conflict, like, oh, you made this mistake, no, I didn't make this mistake, and the husband and wife start to have arguments about that. So if there's openness and there's understanding, and it's like, oh, if I made the mistake, why didn't you correct me? Then go ahead and correct them. But if it's something like, it's going to cause more conflict, then leave it alone. It's okay. Allah ta'ala. Sister Sabia is asking, as I maintain a charity box at home for continued charity on a daily basis, can I pay to any kind of charity because through credit card and take the exact amount from the box? Yes, you can, but understand that when you pay by credit card, there might be some fees, right, for expenses or the charge. Some organizations have that, and that would be fine too. So just take that into consideration as well. Allah ta'ala alam. What are some ways that we can practice the Sunnah of Eid al-Fitr at home during this Eid in the pandemic? This is a very good question. Inshallah, same things that eat before eating something in the morning for Eid al-Fitr. Shower, also wear nice clothes. greet people however you can, whether through Zoom or Facebook, YouTube. We'll probably do something as a community to just encourage people to come together and keep consistency after Ramadan. Make sure that you've given your zakat al-fitr. All of these things are from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So try to have it as normal as possible, right? The only thing that is really required from a communal perspective is the Eid Salah, and we're not able to do that. But other things that you would do, right, that you probably do with your family, friends, relatives, see how you can do it in a virtual setting. Allah Ta'ala a'lam. Inshallah, we are trying to plan some things as a community to see how we can improve the Eid experience for our community during this pandemic. We haven't finalized anything, but this is something on our agenda as well, inshallah. So we are encouraged to pay our zakah in our community, but aren't we supposed to help our needy relatives first, preferred in Quran? Yes, this is fine. Alhamdulillah. As long as first you give to your relatives, and then if there's after that, then you should give to your local community. So if there are relatives that are in your local community, because Prophet ﷺ said, it's sadaqah and sila, right? It is, you're fulfilling the religious obligation, but you're also joining the family ties. But if you don't, let's say that your relatives are overseas and you want to help them, yes, go ahead and help them. But don't forget the people in your local community as well. Allahu Ta'ala alam. Can you please elaborate on the modifications of prayer while entering back problems that limit bending and standing for extended periods of time? Okay. This is a good question. That when you say, when you enter the salah, right, I would say that if you can stand and say Allahu Akbar, stand and say Allahu Akbar. After that, if your back starts to hurt or your legs start to hurt, whatever, then sit down. And when you do ruku', you do it a little bit, right? And then you do sajda just a little bit more. Right? A little bit is relative, however much you can take, however much your back can take. You don't have to exert yourself too much. So this would be the way that a person would make those modifications in praying. Do the best that you can, inshallah, and you will be okay. Bidnillah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your capacity, and la yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not test anyone beyond their capability and beyond their capacity. Allah ta'ala alam. Is it permissible to complete the Quran in one day? Most of the scholars say that it is. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that a person shouldn't complete the Quran in less than 3 days. Okay, but at certain times, certain places, certain like virtues, you will see some of the companions radiallahu anhum completing the Quran in 1 day. Some used to complete it, and some of our scholars have completed. How they did it, I don't know, but they say 2 Qurans in a day, one in the morning, one in the evening, because of the virtues of Ramadan. So the general rule is that you should not complete the Quran in less than 3 days, but there are some exceptions in terms of certain times and places. But again, understand that the recitation should not be like right, things of that sort. No, that is not being respectful to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all hidayah and tawfiq. I would say in those situations, if a person is going to have to read like that with the objective of completing the Quran, I would say it's better to not complete the recitation of Quran and give the Quran its right by reciting it properly and in a way that is legible. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. What is the ruling about wearing jewelry with Ayatul Kursi, Allah's name on it, in the bathroom? Do we have to remove it every time, or we go, or just covering is enough? If you're going to wear jewelry with that, you should remove it every time that you go. The Prophet ﷺ did have a ring that he ﷺ used to remove before entering the Bait al-Khala, the bathroom area where he used to relieve himself, ﷺ. So you should you remove it. If there's something that you are not even take it in, but if there's ever a situation where you are unable to just leave it and take it out and leave it outside, then if you have something like a bag or something and you put it in there, then that would be okay. Allahu A'lam. But that's an extreme situation. It's better to just leave it out. But if somebody has, let's say somebody has, they're at work or they're at a train station or airport and they can't leave their bag out in a public area or else it'll be taken. In that situation, what do? If you have a mushaf or you have a ring or you have a something, you would put that in the bag and just cover it up, and then you could take that in. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. When we pay for donation with a credit card during Ramadan, but we don't pay the credit card bill till after Ramadan, do we still get the extra reward of donating in Ramadan? Inshallah, yes. Inshallah, yes, you do. Yes, you do, because what happened is that when you give that, to the people that are in need, inshallah, they'll be able to use it, and your objective of giving it to them was for them to access it in the month of Ramadan. Inshallah, that will be achieved. Allahu Ta'ala A'lam. If you forget the Sunnah Salah Fajr, can you do Qada? Yes, you can do Qada. And some say you do Qada right after Fajr, before sunrise, and some say you do it, wait for it after sunrise. Allahu Ta'ala A'lam. Can we read Masnoon Du'as in Arabic and Sajda of Sunnah, Fard, and Nafil? Yes. Not only can you should. You should. Right? You should. Allahu Ta'ala A'lam. Can we pray in a sitting posture while traveling? You can pray Sunnah and Witr while traveling, while sitting. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ did when he was traveling. ﷺ. He would pray, he would say Allahu Akbar, and the camel would go, and then he would pray. But for the Fard prayer, the Prophet ﷺ would disembark, stand, and he would pray the Fard prayer standing. But for the Sunnah or the Nafil or the Witr prayer, the Prophet ﷺ would pray this on the camel while it was moving. Allahu Ta'ala A'lam. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is it okay to celebrate Mother's Day? Alhamdulillah. I was waiting. I was like, subhanAllah, I haven't got this question yet, right? Alhamdulillah. So Mother's Day, in the sense of, is it a religious, Islamically appropriate holiday? No, it's not an Islamic holiday, right? Is it like one of our Eids? No. But if somebody says, okay, they want to go and say Happy Mother's Day to their mother and give their mom a gift, I don't see any issue with that. We have, as religious holidays, we have 2 Eids. But there are certain cultural holidays that we may have, certain days that we have, that as long as we don't take them and make them equivalent to Eid, I don't see an issue with that. Allahu Ta'ala A'lam. All right, inshallah. Do we have any more questions? We have a couple minutes left, inshallah. So if there's any other questions, anything that we need clarified, please do let me know, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Just a reminder that inshallah tonight the khatira will be starting at 9 o'clock. So please set your timers or let us know that inshallah. So please do come at that time, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts. Please continue to support our programs. Please continue to support the masjid. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our efforts. And if I've said anything that is right, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if I've said anything that is from my own nafs and from shaitan, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me, and I ask you to forgive me as well. Subhanakallah, jazakumullah khairan, subhanakallah bihamdik. Oh, we have another question, sorry, before we close. Same question with celebrating birthdays. Yes, this is not a popular opinion, but I do take the same opinion when it comes to birthdays as well. I do not think that birthdays are religious holidays or religiously binding. So if someone wants to celebrate a birthday and get people together, I don't have any issue with that. But I don't think that celebrating the birthday of the Prophet ﷺ is from our sunnah and our tradition, because people view that as a religious thing, and that should be taken out, right? So as far as religious holidays, we only have 2. Yes, I know there's people that disagree with this, but I personally don't see when a person has a birthday or goes out to eat with their friends or has some people even and cooks a meal, then I don't believe that that is a religiously unacceptable or haram or bid'ah thing to do. Allahu Ta'ala A'lam. Inshallah, barakallahu feekum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us, and inshallah, show love to your family, show love to your to your relatives. We don't need to make things harder than they need to be. It's hard enough for people to be able to hold on to their Islam, and inshallah follow the Quran, follow the Sunnah. Don't add anything to the religion, but Islam can be acceptable. And yes, the brother Shahid's asking Christmas, Easter, Valentine's, Halloween. These would all be different. These would all be different because there's religious connotation behind all of these days. April Fool's Day, right? When people say that, lying, that's not allowed either. So Christmas has a religious connotation. Easter has a religious connotation, right? Valentine, we don't believe in a Saint Valentine that puts people into love and things of that sort, right? Halloween, right? Honoring the Day of the Dead, right? Even a lot of Christian organizations, they don't have allow their people to do that because they don't believe in that either. So those are all different. But as far as some other holidays that people celebrate that doesn't have a religious basis, I don't see a problem with that. Allahu ta'ala a'lam. When is your next Q&A session? Inshallah, will be after Ramadan. Inshallah, next week at 2 o'clock, we will have Mufti Abrar Mirza. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and preserve him and reward him. He'll be coming and giving us a speech about reconciling the hearts and joining the hearts. So inshallah, that will be happening next week. But inshallah, yes, we will have more question and answer sessions going forward, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan. As I mentioned, if I said anything which is right, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept, and that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I said anything which is wrong, which is very possible, that's from the evil of my own self and my own nafs and from shaitan, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me, and I ask all of you to forgive me as well. Jazakumullah khairan. Subhanaka bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.